Hello and welcome to Dancing in the Shadows. I'm your host, Jason Ring. Let's recap a little bit of the previous podcast. Finished the high school and started talking about the death of one of my best friends growing up in this Jehovah's Witness religion. He was disfellowshipped from the religion for falling in love and getting his girlfriend pregnant and kicked out of his home, and he fell into drugs and alcohol and joined a gang. Found out his friend was with his girlfriend, got drunk, broke down the door, locked himself in his room to be close to his baby, held his baby, and I think cried with his baby, from what I understand. She called the police. The police arrived. He put the baby down. He told the police he had a gun. There was a standoff for a while, and to prove that he had a gun, he ended up shooting the television in the room. The police may have suspected that he had done something to himself or to the baby, I guess. They busted the door down. When they did that, he took his life by scattering his brains against the wall. Fast forward a little bit, about 7 years ago, so I was probably about 41, I received a message on Facebook from a kid named Alex. And Alex happened to be Brian's son. Alex asked me, what was his dad like? So I got into that in the last podcast. I talked about how this Jehovah's Witness religion's ideologies, this one of shunning, is one of the most terrible things that this organization has adopted into their theology, because it creates monsters or minions. Minions are servants of this ideology. They do whatever they say, however they want it done, and it's done. And if you're kicked out of the religion and you're shunned from your family, it creates monsters. My understanding now, though, as of recently, they've changed this policy. And I don't believe that shunning is a widespread practice anymore within the congregations. So that's a win. I'm glad to hear that. There needs to be more changes, though. The two-witness rule needs to change. The blood rule needs to change. I do believe that. There's a few things that need to change. The brainwashing needs to stop. Free will needs to come back to the religion. People need to be able to choose for themselves whether or not they want to stay in the religion or leave the religion without punishment. And if they question something, they need not be punished for questioning something. As it stands now, many of them are still punished for questioning the theology. And they dare not question it because they know that consequences will come. This is part of their cognitive dissonance. They're kept in line this way. This is part of the programming. Brian was my first wake-up call in this organization. When he took his life, I blamed the religion. And I, to this day, blame the religion. See, now, if the shunning practices have been lifted from this organization, then Brian's death most likely would have not have happened. And that's a fact. He was destabilized as a result of the shunning policy at a young age, at a critical time in his life. He's having a baby. You do have to forgive me. I left a part out of the story, the last podcast, because I didn't think I was going to be able to get through it emotionally. But I feel a little stronger right now, so I'm going to tell you this story. When Brian was disfellowshipped from the religion, I was told that if I was to ever see him, that I cannot speak to him and I have to turn my back on him. And for some reason, I think I might have been washing my car or something. I was out in front of my house, most likely waxing my car, if you heard a previous podcast. Brian, I see him drive by in this old beater car, and I'm like, oh no, I think he saw me. And I hear him turn around. I'm like, yep, he's coming. He's going to come talk to me. Oh no, how am I going to handle this? This inner voice in my head, still kind of tethered by this ideology. Still living at home at the time, so I have to obey my parents. And so Brian gets out of the car and he starts walking towards me, and I'm like, here we go. And Brian goes, hey, how's it going, man? I said, oh, hey, Brian, how you doing, man? I said, oh, you're losing your hair. He's like, yeah, I'm losing my hair. He goes, so how are you? I said, I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. I go, how are you? He's like, yeah, well, day by day, man, day by day. I said, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I said, look, I'm really not supposed to talk to you. I'm really sorry, man. And he kind of put his head down, and he was nodding, because he knew what I had to do, even though now I would have just probably leaped over the ditch and gave him a hug, But I turned my back on him, and I walked away. As I was approaching my front door, I heard his squeaky door open and close, and I heard the engine start. He drove away. And I came in and I told my mom, I said, I just saw Brian. She's like, really? Did he come over here? I'm like, yeah, he just came over to ask me how I was. She goes, what did you say to him? And I kind of got this tone from my mom, corrective tone, like, you're not supposed to be talking to him kind of tone. And I said, look, he just asked me how I was, and I told him I was doing okay, and I asked him how he was, and doesn't seem to be doing too good. And she's like, well, yeah, that's on him, and blah, 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 In my head, I just felt so gutted that I just did that to my best friend. It was just a short time later that he took his life, So, yeah, that was the last time I seen him alive. And so, the next confirmation that this religion is wrong is my little cousin was born. My mom's sister's son was born, and there was something wrong with him, and he needed a blood transfusion. And his mom and dad, of course, fought them. No, you're not giving my son a blood transfusion. And they're like, well, we're trying to save his life. And like, well, we're Jehovah's Witnesses, and we expect our rights to be honored. Well, the doctors took it to the court, and they got a court order, and they took him away from them and gave him a blood transfusion. He's still with us today. It saved his life. And he's a good kid. I love him very much. I helped him with his search engine optimization on his new business, sheetmetalsonline.com. So if you have a need for sheet metal, my cousin will take care of you. It's a cool business. It's a cool thing that he started up. Essentially, if you need just a piece of metal for a project, or you need a corner guard, or you need a splash guard, or you need something for your kitchen or remodel or whatever, he can get you, rather than buy a full sheet of whatever you need, they can custom cut and fit the size that you need and ship it directly to you. So it's a great little business. That's sheetmetalsonline.com. There you go, Steven. Yeah, he's a good kid. And he was my second wake-up call. Some of the policies within this organization need to change. That's definitely one of them. I guess now I'm approaching adulthood, 18 years old. And guess what? I move out on my own. And we're going to get into that next. Thank you so much for listening. It means the world to me. Please subscribe and share if you find this content fascinating or helpful in any way. It means a good deal to me that you share this information on. So thank you so much, and thank you for listening to Dancing in the Shadows. I'm your host, Jason, and until next time, thank you very much.